Position 12, Community Enhancements, $3.5 million. What is the League of Women Voters? We're a 151-year-old nonpartisan nonprofit organization. We advocate for issues, but not for candidates or politicians. What is this tax? This tax would start April 1st, 2022. What is on the ballot? 14 propositions have been proposed in 4 broad categories. Each must receive a majority of votes to be approved. Who's presenting on this issue? Dr. Mark Rinne, the Cheyenne City Council. Mark, this proposition is, I like the way you've put it, it's large project completion. It's those projects, it sounds like, that we just, all of us want to do something about, but don't know how to get there. And so this is a new approach, it sounds like to me. So would you describe it for us?
It is, Roz. It's a little different approach. The city of Casper's used something like this with the development of Jefferson Street Station, if you've ever been up in that area. But essentially, there are certain projects, certain buildings around the town that I think, unless the city gets involved in, nothing's going to happen with them. And, you know, the example is the Heinz and the Hole. That I think the Hole's been there 15 years now, was when Mary's Baked, when that burned down, and the Heinz has been empty for over 30 years. Every time, Leeds has had a lot of people look at it, DDA has had people look at it, realtors have had people look at those 2 projects, and every time they try and pencil it out, it comes up about $2 million short. And obviously, you know, if it were feasible for private industry to do it, it would have been done by now. But unless the city gets involved in some capacity, projects like the Heinz and getting the Hole filled probably are not going to happen. So the purpose of this is to give us a fund to where, when there are major projects like this that need some help, need a nudge, that the city can get involved, maybe come up with some upfront money that we can then later be paid back to get these projects moving forward. And the Heinz and the Hole is one of the best examples. Another good example is the Hitching post, which wasn't going to go anywhere again with private developers. They just weren't figuring out how to get it done, and through this administration we've managed to do that through developing an urban renewal authority, declaring that blighted, and then coming up with tax increment financing to eventually pay back the city's initial outlay. So that's another example where, again, that wasn't going to happen unless the city got involved. So the purpose of Proposition 12 is to give the city the ability to, on some big projects like this, for us to maybe help with upfront monies. The hope is that we can then structure a contract or an MOU so that we can eventually get the monies paid back. And then we kind of have a revolving fund that we can use for big projects to improve the city. Otherwise, again, you know, there are just some projects that have been out there forever. They don't pencil out. Private industry doesn't want to touch them because they can't make a profit or even break even at it. So unless we get involved, that's probably our involvement in some form is probably the only way some of those projects will ever get done.
And so what are the Reed Avenue corridor and the Belvoir Ranch?
The Belvoir, again, is, if you remember, several years ago, the city bought the Belvoir Ranch to the west of town. Initially was purchased for land, to locate another landfill and for water. We haven't had to tap into the water yet, but we probably will at some point. We originally were told we couldn't expand our existing landfill. And then we're going to have to find a new site, and then DEQ changed their requirements and their thoughts, and thought, no, they'd rather let us expand our landfill as opposed to having a new brownfield site within the county, western part of the county. So we don't have to build a landfill there anymore, but the Belvoir and the Big Hole could be a tremendous asset in the way of recreation for the city. So that's an area that is an example that if we had a private developer that wanted to come in and help with the recreation side of it or do something, again, we would have some money to stake them or help them. The other example you used was
the Reed Avenue corridor.
Reed Avenue corridor, and there's been some monies. Reed Avenue is on the west side in the west edge. It's along the Burlington Northern track there. It's a gravel road. We had some money, planning monies put in for the Reed Avenue corridor in the last sixpenny, and that's gone a little slower than we'd hoped because we're dealing with Burlington Northern Railroad and they don't have a lot of incentive haven't had a lot of incentive to work with us. But with that, we're hoping to build that up in some of those old warehouses and buildings and the old green elevator, make that area attractive and an attraction there. And again, there's some of those buildings need a lot of work. And again, without the city at least helping it initially, those projects may not get off the ground. So that's really the purpose behind this, is to help with some of the initial funding on some of those projects in the hope that we'll recover those monies and can keep turning that over and keep developing areas of the city that need it.
Okay. League members, do you have any questions? Okay.
Roz, if I could ask, hi.
Yeah.
So Mark, I understand these propositions which are meant to inspire or jumpstart maybe other groups that have plans. I was wondering if someone does have a proposal to say put something amenable in the bake shop hole, where would they come with those proposals? Is there a city office where someone could come with proposals and say, if I can get X amount of money, what do I do with this? I'm just wondering how this goes into action if someone does come forward with an idea and maybe some money, but not the whole amount.
Well, we've had people look at it. I mean, usually developers have looked at it, and generally they've looked at some of the issues with the Heinz building. Is, again, it was built before computers, it was built before air conditioning. So you need a new elevator system and you need another stairwell, and which would probably, the uses for those would be to extend into the hole. And we've had, again, Marguerite, we've had a lot of people look at it, but for what it will take to get that building up to modern business standards and use, they always have to put about $2 million more into it than what they can recover. So if we can say, so I guess if they have a viable option, assuming this passes, we would probably, I would put this in, good question. I assume it would probably go in the planning office or maybe the development office. And obviously we would have criteria. And, but if we have what we think is a viable project that we want to get involved with, then obviously our attorneys would drop a contract. And so where they would take, to be honest, I can't answer your question truthfully because we've never had the ability to do something like this in the past. So that's something, if it passes, obviously we're talking, city funds that we need to be responsible for. So we would definitely draw up criteria and contracts that protect the city and protect those funds.
So that proposals be fully vetted as far as, other people bringing their resources.
Yes, obviously they'd have to have a pro forma. They'd have to have already sat down and looked at it and said, look, this is what we want to do with the project. This is what can be done. This is what we think we can generate if we do it. We need your money for this portion of it. And,
make a good case, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's, just, hey, I've got this great concept, help me out. Like, that's not going to work. It's got to be something that's thought out and detailed.
Good.
Thank you, Marguerite. And thank you. I'm Rosalind Shalisky, and I'm the secretary of the Cheyenne League of Women Voters and assisting Me tonight is Zoom Master Dr. Karen Meister Emmerich, Vice President of the Cheyenne League. And along with our members, we thank you for your interest in this election for the six penny. And finally, to our Laramie County voters, remember your vote is your voice, so use it. When is the election? The election is Tuesday, November 2nd. When is early voting? It's already started, and it will continue until November 1st in the atrium of the county building. How to vote by absentee ballot? You need to request a ballot from the county clerk, and you need to do it quickly because it'll take 7 to 10 days for your ballot to arrive and another 7 to 10 days for it to be received by mail in the county clerk's office. But you could drop that absentee ballot off in the county clerk's office or outside in the drop box on Cary Avenue. Is an ID required? Well, it is now. Wyoming law now requires an ID before voting in person on election day or during early voting. And here are the IDs that are accepted. Your vote is your voice. Use it.